Welcome to the Leadership in Land podcast, where we talk about what actually moves the needle in the land business. This show isn't about getting rich or quick schemes or magic mail pieces. It's about leadership, systems, decision making, the stuff that you just happen to figure out after your third or fourth pricing mistake, or maybe just your first. This deal looks great on paper, got a moment. Well, tune in with me today, my friends, and let's dive right in.
You're listening to the RE Tipster Podcast Network.
Okay, so quick question for you. Have you heard of our Skool community? I just want to make sure to invite you to check that out. If you're listening to this episode, it's actually kind of old, to be honest with you. And so if you want our latest, if you want our greatest content we're putting out, real conversations about leadership, decision making, building a land business that actually works in the real world, get inside our Skool community where you get access to the free leadership course, plus bonus episodes, discussions, and insights that honestly just don't make it onto the podcast. So if you're serious about this, you want to learn more about leadership, get in the community, check it out, leadershipinland.com or school.com/leadershipinland. All right, let's get in the episode. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Leadership in Land. I am your host, Dave Deniston of Generation Family Properties and the UnConference, where our goal here is to help at least 1,000 land investors be the best leader that they can be. Well, I am honored to have a good friend with me here on the show or course or whatever this is that I'm doing. He is, to me, one of the best, most humble people, educators in the land space. He's a land investor himself. Please help me welcome Seth Williams. Seth, what's up?
Dave. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. Great to talk to you.
Glad to have you too, sir. Well, I think what I love about you is just your focus on education, your focus on serving land investors, and you talk to a lot of us. You know, you probably know more people than I could shake a stick at in this business. New people have been around for dozens of years doing this stuff. I'm just curious to hear from you, Seth. We're recording this in August of 2024. What do you make of kind of the land investing game today?
Well, I sort of feel like in some ways it's harder than it's ever been in terms of just the ability to find deals with ease and that kind of thing, and just knowing how to navigate some of the increasing regulatory stuff going on with some of these newer marketing channels like texting and ringless voicemail and cold calling and all this stuff. Even direct mail, it seems like, is under attack in some places now. You also got stuff like somebody's trying to do assignments or double closings and that kind of thing. A lot of states are making that hard. And just land in general. I mean, it used to be, I don't know if I would ever use the word easy because that's too strong of a word to use, but it was definitely easier years ago. And interestingly, I don't think anybody really realized that back at the time. If I had known back then what I know today, there are certain things I would have double and triple and quadrupled down on just because I knew this is not always going to be this simple. Do more of it while you can. And even just different ideas I see people doing today that nobody even had the slightest clue about that stuff back then. But that always makes me wonder, I wonder what I should be doubling down on today. That's going to be a lot harder in 2 or 3 or 5 years. And I don't know if there's a totally obvious way to know what that should be, but maybe there's clues to look at. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. It's
I feel like this podcast and this thing that we're doing here, talking about leadership, before, when I started 7 years ago, and you started well before me, that most people, it was them and a VA. And today we're seeing bigger teams, more complex teams, more specialization in terms of what people are doing. I'm hoping as part of these materials that I'm going to produce that we'll have a bunch of different possibilities. Oh, here's this tree of what someone has for their leadership. Here's this other tree. It's just this person in a VA, doing what they're doing. Any of these things can work, which is the amazing thing. It just becomes kind of, what kind of business do you want? But I agree with you. It's harder. Coming from where you came from, how have you thought about leadership evolving in the land business. Have I painted that picture fairly, or like, do you disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely more common to see people with bigger teams. I will say, though, there's still a lot of people where it's just them or just them and one VA, and that's it. Like, I'd probably say the majority of people still that I encounter are like that. The difference is the people that you hear stuff about, those are the people with huge teams, because that's in some ways, if you want to make like millions, I don't know if you have to have that, but like you'd have to have some trick up your sleeve to make millions without having a team on your side. Because you either have to do just a ton of volume somehow on your own, or have some like secret way of going after hidden deals that nobody else knows about. So I think that's probably why the idea of having big teams, and more specifically how you build out these teams and lead them effectively, you hear a lot more about that from people who have gotten really far in the land business, because there's that common thread. In order to get that far, you need a team to do that. So, yeah.
Or I would even argue too, that people have built a lot of indirect teams as well.
Yeah.
That they may not be on their payroll where they pay them every week or every month, but they're contractors that will be realtors, right? That help them list properties, or
yeah, and that's a great distinction to make too,
or whatever.
Yeah, it's a great distinction to make. Just in terms of like, is my title company part of my team? Is my attorney on my team? Like, they don't have to be on your payroll. In fact, that's most of the team members I have are not on my payroll. They're people I just kind of tap on the shoulder when I need this one job done, but I don't need you full time, that kind of thing.
Which I think is the beauty of this business. the kind of team and the kind of thing you want to build is really up to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to hear from you, from your perspective, dealing with so many different real estate investors through RE Tipster and the courses and all this stuff that you have going on. How would you, if you could paint the picture for me of different kinds of leaders in land, knowing that there's a lot of styles at work, how would you go about describing the kinds of leaders and teams that are out there?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not sure how to classify that, but I know some people very much want to be, either they want to or they feel like they have to be very much involved in the business. And it's probably, maybe it boils down to a limiting belief of some kind, this idea that like, I have to be the one that handles this part because I can't trust anybody else to do it. I think if you really peel back the onion, that's probably what's going on. Because if you could outsource it, why would you not? Unless you just love doing cold calling with motivated sellers, But
right? Yep.
Yeah, but like I know, several people pulling in around $1 million or so a year, and they might have like 2 people that they employ part-time, that kind of thing. And these people, they might handle some part of the acquisition process for them. Like maybe they handle the texting or something like that, or maybe the due diligence or coordinating closings or something like that. But like the real decisions, like the important decisions, like how much do we offer this person, or how do I, find the next person to assign this contract to, or that kind of thing, that's handled by, the head honcho, like the land investor who's running the whole business. So there's that kind of person, but there's also people who are very much aware of the fact that they can totally outsource themselves out of the business, and they want to do that as soon as possible. And really, they're just there to kind of check in every week, just to kind of see how people are doing. But for the most part, they're not that involved anymore. And I think those people, a common thread I see with them is that, and I've actually heard them say these words, like they love their team. Like they love this team building process of finding people, sewing into people, building them up, helping them see the better parts of themselves. Like they just light up when they talk about it. And that's probably why they've been able to do it, is because it's not like pulling teeth to them to get on a Zoom call with their team members. Like they look forward to it, and they could spend all day working with them, not doing the business, just building up their team so that they can do the business. So a few people come to mind right now that are like that. And maybe it's no coincidence that they're doing really well and they're making tons of money in land.
I think about all the people that I know, and maybe it's just because of the circles I'm plugged into. Seems like everyone I know is like really actively involved in the business. I personally have yet to know someone that is truly just like on the board of directors and, be basically consulting with the team. Like, do you know people that actually have done that? That they're actually not working in the business on a weekly basis. Like they're totally out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that can mean so many different things. There's probably a lot of different levels of that, of being in or out of it. But, and again, all I know is what people tell me. So there could be stuff they're not telling me that I'm just not aware of. But, I was talking with a guy 2 weeks ago who, he basically said, like, I don't do hardly anything anymore. Like, my job is just to, like, check in with each team member and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do and that they understand it and get it. And kind of like how Tim Ferriss says, I'm like a cop on the side of a highway watching traffic go by. And if I got to pull somebody over, I can do that. But I'm mostly just sitting there, watch it all happen. And it sounds kind of amazing. I'm curious, though, how they get to that. Like, what is required to get there to, like, actually be able to trust people that implicitly, especially when we're talking about sometimes huge dollar amounts and transactions that it's not their money. It's this land investing business owner's money. I don't know. And maybe there is some involvement that he has that he just wasn't telling me, but yeah, so I do know a couple people like that. But most people I know, like when I talk about, them outsourcing themselves out of the business, what that actually means is most of the time they spend is just meeting with their team members. So they do spend time on it. It's just they're not the ones actually sifting through spreadsheets and, making purchase agreements and all this stuff. Their team is doing that, and they're just making sure their team is okay and gets it. And part of it is because I think they enjoy it. Like they enjoy the relational aspect of it and helping other people grow.
I know for me as a land investor, it's been this evolution of, there's a lot of parts of the business that I enjoy, but like, I don't want to do a ton of it. Like a little bit's okay. If I have to get on the phone with a seller or a buyer every so often, I don't mind that. It's actually kind of fun, but I don't want to do that all day in the business. Or like pricing stuff. I actually enjoy spreadsheets to a degree, but I don't want to do that all day either. Right. So it's like getting tastes of the business is fun in all the different departments, but I don't want to have to do pricing all the time. It's just like,
for sure,
especially 7 years into the business now. In the first 2 years, this is amazing and exciting. And, but then the overwhelmed amount of work as we did more and more and more of it. And I think this would be interesting to talk about, like this idea of scaling comes with a cost that I think a lot of us talk about scaling and doing it, but there's the cost of time and resources. And some people, our good mutual friend, Callan, she's been like, I'm just going to keep moving up, rather than doing small flips initially, and I'm doing medium-sized flips. Now she's like focusing on like purely entitlements and stuff. So people move up that way. Other people said, I'm going to do more of the medium-sized flips or the small flips or whatever in order to scale. It seems to me that like if people do move up a level, they don't necessarily need a bigger team, but the amount of time now they have to invest into understanding something that, well, it's similar, it's different. I really actually do take an exception of what people say. Oh, add on a zero, it's the same thing. I totally disagree with that. Every level has different challenges and different learning curves. It's not just add a zero to it. It's a different kind of buyer, different kind of seller, all that stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. But I often get annoyed when I hear stuff like that, like the send more mail. It's like, yes, but there's a lot more to it than that. And there's, the more mail you send, I mean, you got to start asking, okay, what am I saying? Like, am I trying to go after a different kind of deal? Or like, what about this different market I have to go into as a result of sending more mail? That's a totally different market. I got to figure that out now. Like, it's not that simple. And there's so many like hidden things behind all of those oversimplified statements that people make. I think people say them because they're, it's memorable and easy to say, but as I always say, the devil's in the details, and there's a lot of detail to think about with that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting how you talk about the cost of scaling. So it seems like there's costs to everything in any direction. I mean, there's cost to not scaling too. So, but in terms of the cost of scaling, so are you thinking like like in your mind, what would some of those costs be? Is it like the inability to do certain things as a result of doing that, or?
Well, let's take the example of you want to do more deals of this similar kind.
Yeah.
Well, does your current staff, can they handle more? Right? Like if you're truly scaling and trying to 2x or 3x or 4x or 10x what you're doing now, well, that means you have that much more staff. That means you have that much more marketing. You're investing a huge amount of money into your business in multiple ways, right? And you don't see a return on that money for 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road. I mean, there's a training process that has to happen, unless you just find a magical unicorn that you can just plug into your business and knows all your systems and knows everything that you do. That, as far as I'm seeing, that person ain't out there. And, it's a process of adding to the team to get them there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it's hard to change in life and in business. I mean, you get used to a certain way of doing things and you build up a team or whatever software you're using, or just your own mental thought process around something that works or worked well for a period of time. And then when that stops working, you got to figure out, what do I got to change here? How do I turn this cruise ship on a dime and start doing something different? It's not easy. And sometimes that means like totally retraining your team or changing up who's on your team, all this stuff. If the old team members can't figure out how to do the new way, and even yourself, like, changing your belief system and your thoughts about what does and doesn't work. Or maybe like you tried something one way, it didn't work that well. So you kind of say, well, that doesn't work, period. But there's like 100 other ways you could have tried it that you hadn't explored yet. I'm totally guilty of this. And it's a hard thing. It takes a kind of a nimble mind to be able to turn on a dime like that and just, be able to entertain new ideas like that, even if you've tried something and it didn't work so well before.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what I love about this business in general, is there's so many things we can try and test and tweak. Like we've been split testing letters, this kind of letter versus that kind of letter, split testing versus other marketing channels. I mean, there's a lot of things you can try, which can feel like, you're chasing squirrels around, but and shiny objects. But I think that's part of the fun of the business, at least for me, is there's an unlimited, infinite amount of things you can be doing and trying and figuring out that puzzle and putting the pieces together. And then, like you said, the puzzle changes. It's like a whole new puzzle that now you have to figure out. Seth, I know you. Oh, go ahead, Seth.
Well, I think that is part of the benefit of getting educated on what specifically you're trying to do, because there's an infinite number of ways to do something the wrong way. But if somebody has already been down it and done it the right way and saw results, and they can clearly explain exactly what they did to get those results and how you can do it too, that's worth a lot. I mean, if there's any truth to that, any validity to what they've done and made it work, if you can do it too, you just think how much grief you can save yourself if you don't have to bump into all the walls and screw it all up 100 times before you finally figure it out. Like, that's worth a ton.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. Although I would also add to that, you have to find your own path at the same time. So it's like having a map. You have a map when someone provides it to you. You don't have a map, is like you're completely lost. So having a map is better than not having a map. But then once you have the map, well, the way that the person got to that, you might find something that works better for you, in terms of the traffic signals and whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's, not everybody has an easy time with that. They kind of just see this explanation. It's like, okay, that is the cookie cutter approach that I have to take too. And if I'm not exactly like that person and doing exactly what they do, I can't do it. But yeah, it's interesting. But it's a great point though. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can still go down the same path and be true to yourself and what you're good at.
And it's a process, I think, of self-discovery, really, and growing as a person. I would love to hear from you, Seth. You are a land investor. You're a leader in this space through RE Tipster. How do you feel you've grown as a person, as a leader in the last, you've been at this, 15, 16 years in land?
Yeah, man. There's so many different things to explore. That's a great question though. So I think when I look back on 5 or 10 years ago, even if I like look at things I posted in forums back then, you can kind of see like assumptions that lived beneath what I was saying about how the world works and how you get results and, all this stuff. And, I just didn't know as much back then as I know now. And there weren't as many people doing as many things then as there are today. So I think just being aware of like what else, like what other options there are for everything. Like just one example comes to mind. 10 years ago, the idea of hiring a land agent or a realtor to list and sell your property. So I had some experience with that, and it wasn't good experience because I had found house realtors who didn't know anything about land, and they did nothing. And I ended up selling the property faster than they could, and I had to pay their commission anyway. So after having a couple experiences like that, it's like, okay, this is not a good route to go down. I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm not going to tell anybody else to do it either. But that was an example of one of these things where it's like, well, but there's another way to do it, Seth. It doesn't mean every realtor is terrible. And there are ways to find, realtors that probably know more about land than the average realtor does. And fast forward, and that's how a lot of people are doing things exclusively now. Even when I get a deal that's, worth more than, 10 or 20 grand, it's like, it's just an easy decision to find a realtor who probably knows what they're doing and have them do the work for you. It eliminates a huge amount of the work you have to do in your business and the whole selling process, which is a massive job if you're trying to do it all yourself. So that kind of thing, like just knowing that there's many different ways to skin a cat, and just because you had one bad experience doesn't, forever banish that strategy as something you should never do. It just means you found one of many ways to do it wrong. So how do we change things up until we find the right way?
What have you heard from land investors, or maybe you've experienced yourself? Like this is one of those things to me that the concept sounds great, but like actually doing it and implementing it, of motivating your team, to me, like is just such a black box of how does that work? What have you heard? Things people do, things that have worked for them in terms of motivating their team. That they have.
Yeah. Well, I think in order to do that, you kind of have to understand what motivates this person. And it's not always the same thing for everybody. Some people are motivated by like more time off. Some people want more money. Some people want just recognition. Some people want a better title, all kinds of different stuff. So, when I have team members, I start by trying to understand what motivates them. Like, I just ask them that. Like, what do you want? Like, do you need more time off? Do you need a raise? Like, what would move the needle for you in terms of getting you to, like what would have to be true for you to willingly work 5 extra hours a week? Like, do you need to get paid more? Just understand what's going on there. And in terms of like, for example, if it's money, I've seen really good ideas out there of people who pay their acquisition manager a certain set amount per hour, which is going to vary depending on where in the world they are and their experience and that kind of thing. But then for every deal that, sells and you make a profit, they're going to get a percentage of that. So like there is a reason for them to care rather than just making that amount per hour. There's actually a book called Profit Works, which I listened to the audiobook. I actually had a hard time getting through it, but this book is just full of different ideas on how to compensate people, different creative ways to like make them care in a way that would maybe get them to buy into something. And it's basically what you don't want to do is just arbitrarily, like, for example, give somebody a Christmas bonus just because it's Christmas. That's just what we do. Because then they start expecting it. Like, I'm supposed to get that just because, like, not tied to any result I'm doing. So you basically want to tie it to results in some way. And there's different possible rewards that could be tied to results and different ways to calculate that. And you can get complicated or very simple with it. But anyway, that book is just full of ideas on how to motivate people through profit. But so I don't know if I'm answering the question here, but I guess first of all, find out what motivates people and then try to think of a creative way to make that work for them.
Writing and sending purchase agreements doesn't have to take all day. With Stride CRM, you can generate a full contract with one click, send it to the seller, and track every step until it's digitally signed. No more switching between DocuSign and Google Drive and email. Stride keeps everything digital, fast, and organized in one place. Visit stridecrm.co and start watching your business improve today.
So, and you mentioned land investors doing stuff off of gross profit is pretty typical when a property sells. Any other creative things, you've heard of out there that people are doing?
Yeah, I do think some of this, some of the answers to this becomes evident the more time you spend with each team member, understanding like what they care about. And, you kind of see them light up or not light up when certain possible results are discussed. But in terms of other ideas, I'm trying to think. I know some people will, like I've got a friend who he has somebody he hired who is a full-time teacher, and he hired this person to handle texting for him. And the texting is actually, it's not done through launch control or anything. It's just using like his iPhone. So he's like just texting people with like the blue message. And I forget how exactly, I think he pays him, it's this, a small percentage of profit plus like an hourly amount or a weekly amount. So it's not a ton of money, but this teacher guy, like he loves it and he's happy to do the work. And it doesn't cost the land investor that much because his teacher's salary isn't that much anyway. He's a very smart person. Like he's not just some dummy. Like he understands communication and how to think with an educated mind and all this stuff. So, I think, again, going back to what motivates a person, it helps to understand like where they're coming from as well. Like what is considered a lot of money to them, or what would they normally have to do, or how long would they normally have to work at some other secondary job to earn the same amount of money? Because it might not be that much depending on what they're used to and what the standards are for them.
No, that's true. Well, the way I've generally thought of it too, is really talking with the person, like you said, and helping them paint a vision for themselves. I think a lot of people don't have vision in terms of they haven't taken the time to think about it.
For sure.
Where do I want to be in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? And then revisiting that conversation, I think is super important regularly, every 6 months to a year. I think for me as a leader, personally, some of the struggle is I care about my people, but I like some distance with them. And there's this whole idea of, well, do you want to be their best friend kind of a thing and sit next to them, if you will, versus being a servant in serving them. But at the same point, like, you're not their best friend. How do you think about that in leadership?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do know that people that I know who built huge teams and they love their team and all this stuff. I've even heard some of them say that they refer to their team as family. Like, we're family. When I hear that, I'm like, I think that's a terrible idea, actually. Like, I would not, they're not your family. Don't call them that when they're not. And like, there's, I've had a lot of opportunities to actually work with family and like employ them on some level. And I've resisted it for a long time because like, I need to be able to fire this person. Like if they're not measuring up, like I can't just keep employing them out of obligation. And if I have to fire them, I don't want to destroy the relationship and make it weird for the rest of our lives kind of thing. So like, I just don't want to go there. And it's kind of a shame because like, they probably would do a great job, but I don't want to risk that relationship. And even like if we just not even talking about land investing anymore, just in any corporate environment, I've actually heard some people say it's not wise to become like really good best friends with anybody that you work with, because you never know when like you might go above them or they might go above you. Maybe you do have to fire them someday. It creates unnecessary weirdness when you have to do that. At the same time, like I hear what you're saying. Like I totally get why some people try to make it into a friendship or make it like this really close bond, because it kind of helps with communication and understanding what motivates them. And
It is a very tricky balance. I don't really have like a perfect formula for how to do that right and not overstep in either direction. But I'm kind of like you personally, where like I want my distance too. Like I actually don't love spending tons of times on Zoom calls, just hanging out. Like I've got way too much stuff to do that I want to do than to do that. And I think that actually kind of hurts me a little bit as a leader in that it would help if I was willing to spend more time on that, or if I enjoyed that more. And as a result of not necessarily enjoying it, I kind of, I think it creates maybe too much room for confusion in some cases in terms of them not really understanding how to think with my thinking cap on. So, and I'm not saying this because I'm proud of it. It's just a liability, frankly, of the way that I work. So
Sure. Well, knowing you as I do too, I mean, you do a lot of deep thinking kind of work, which is a much different skill set than just transactional land flipping kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's very different, which is you as a person, which is beautiful, versus someone else. Well, Seth, I know you're big on resources and tools. What have you heard of or run across regarding tools and systems that helps with leadership with land investors? Anything coming to mind off the top of your head, whether it's places that they're looking for people, or how they're evaluating people, or how they're running their business?
Yeah. So my head goes in a few different directions when I hear that. So one thing, I do not use this personally, but I've heard a number of people talk about it, is Notion, in terms of creating like SOPs for your team that they can refer back to, or even like tutorials. And how do we do this? If this comes up, how do we handle that situation? So that could be one thing. And I think if you've got like a large-ish team, like maybe 4 or 5 people or more, it seems like maybe that's when it starts to make a lot of sense, because you have to, repeatedly refer people back to the stuff and not explain it the same way all over again. Other things are, and this is kind of a newish thing with all the AI stuff that's been happening over the past few years here, but using things like ChatGPT or Claude to, let me back up a little bit. So when you're looking to hire somebody, a fairly common thing, I think it's a wise thing to do on some level, is to give them like a personality test to figure out like, okay, what is your Myers-Briggs type and your Enneagram type, and what's your DISC personality profile, and your Clifton Strengths Finder, and your Colby. There's all this stuff you can do. I don't think you have to do all that stuff, but maybe picking like 3 of them and having them take these tests, figuring out who they are, how they operate, and also taking the test yourself so that you understand who you are and how you operate, and take that information on you and this other person, plug it into something like ChatGPT and ask it like, hey, would we work well together? Or given that I am this personality type, what kind of person should I be looking for to perform these tasks in my company? Like what kind of personality types would do well in that? And then would they interact well with me? And I think there's only so much you can get from this. Like there is an element of just human connection where once you talk with somebody enough, you'll understand if you have the right vibe and if you click with them or not. But just like on, black and white text on a screen, understanding certain areas where they may or may not excel at a certain job based on the types that they are. Because it used to be that you had to just kind of read the results and then kind of think in your mind what their job description was. And okay, given these results, would that work well? And there's just stuff you might not see with your own human eyes, but it's something where one of these AI bots could see it pretty easily and point out stuff that you just very easily miss on your own.
That's cool. No, I love it. And I know you had a course on AI recently with Mike Balcom that you guys did. You went over that kind of thing. I think I heard Mike even talk about like using, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or some sort of thing, like role playing. Yeah. With like, rather than me role playing with a teammate, like they could be role playing with AI of some sort. Have you seen that? Heard that?
Yeah, we actually talked about that. So and depending on when people are watching or listening to this will probably change a lot because this is changing very rapidly. But but at this point in time, August 2024, so the ChatGPT mobile app is an incredible thing. Just because, I mean, first of all, it's ChatGPT, and that alone is a lot. But
with the mobile app, you can speak to it and it can speak back to you. And they're even like updating, like as we speak right now, this advanced version of the voice where it just sounds stunningly real, like you're talking to a person. Like it has breaths and it says and stuff like that. And it just, it's almost like the first time I tried to do this role playing stuff where I told it to pretend it was a motivated seller of land and I was the land investor, and I told it to like challenge me and, you know, ask for reasons why they should sell and all this stuff. And like, I almost felt like nervous as I was talking to this thing, but yeah, it's great for that. That's one of thousands of uses for ChatGPT. And at this point in time, ChatGPT is the only one that has this ability to speak. I think I heard Gemini might have started this too, but I'm sure that will change as time goes on. But yeah, just the ability to, you know, just verbally process things, whether you're driving around and you just want to speak it, you can't look down and type stuff, or even just exercising that part of your brain. It's very helpful for that.
I can imagine so many uses in leadership of how, just an example like that, right? You're trained it, and I guess somehow that gets shared with team members. I'm not into Chat GPT like you have been. I've played with it some, but I don't consider myself an expert. Any other uses of AI that you think right now, August of 2024, is like, as a leader, this would be something really cool people should be checking out or thinking about?
Oh yeah, man, that's a loaded question. I mean, we literally just did a month-long course talking about all the stuff. It wasn't all specifically about leadership, but yeah, I mean, like the Notion idea I mentioned earlier, like you can have ChatGPT write your entire SOP, like just give it some basics on what you want to see in it, and then it can actually make a pretty good sounding version of it. You can use it to sort through all kinds of stuff through Excel, analyzing data at a huge scale that would be very hard, if not impossible, to do on your own. You can use it to write Google scripts and Python scripts and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I guess.
I'll give an example of something else that would be really cool that maybe it could do is like a call review.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
One of the things with lead managers that we try and do regularly is do a call review with them. So you'd have open phone, which has kind of some summary of, hey, here's what's happened in the call or some major points agreed to it. There's the audio file, which actually happened. And then we have like a call review, like template of here's all of the things that are supposed to be looking for. Like, how would that work? Like, I have no clue because I'm not deep into it. Like, how as a leader could I use that tool to help me do the call review?
Yeah, it's not that hard to transcribe any audio file, even with two different speakers, so you know which speaker is saying what. And then you can take that transcript, upload it to ChatGPT or Claude, and explain. I mean, you actually wouldn't even have to explain that much. It'll right off the bat tell you obvious things that might go wrong. But if you wanted to help it understand more context about what you're trying to do and what constitutes a good or bad phone interaction, that kind of thing, you can even create like customized GPTs for this purpose that has a deep understanding of how these phone calls should go. And then take that transcript, upload it, tell it to analyze it, point out different areas where, the caller could have said this instead of that. Or I see that the person on the other end responded this way. Perhaps they could have said it this way instead. Just, different ideas, or with your own set of human eyes. If you know this stuff well, you could see that too. But ChatGPT would just, again, it's an amazing 80-20 lever that not only helps you get stuff done a lot faster, but it helps you see things that are just really hard to see as a human. And one of the number one uses for ChatGPT is just ideation, basically expanding the reach of the human mind. When the human mind just can't really think of other ideas or do other stuff on its own, it sort of gives you ideas based on everything it knows, which is a lot.
How long do you think it would take me to train ChatGPT with like this kind of process we were just talking about with the call review? Like realistically, being someone that hasn't used it a lot, would it take me like a whole 2 weeks to really get familiar with it? Like how?
Yeah. So not long ago, I did a 3-part interview with Ajay Sharma about his sales process on the phone, like what it looks like and what they say. And it's not like we covered every possible thing that could be said, but for example, you could take the transcripts of those 3 videos, which are all on YouTube. Go to youtubetranscript.com. You'll get the transcript there. And once you have that in like a PDF file, you can upload that to ChatGPT, and just just that alone, it's going to have tons of context of like, okay, what are we doing here? What are some examples of good and bad calls? What do you say in this situation? What's the best way to respond? What's the end objective? All that stuff is contained in those transcripts. And just that alone, which would take you maybe 30 to 60 seconds to get those transcripts and upload them and, just explain some basic details. That alone would be a lot of information you could have to work with just to understand what the standard is and how we're measuring these people. So I know other people that, for example, you could take an entire course on land investing, get all of the written content, all the downloadable PDFs, upload all of that to a GPT. And now you have this massive knowledge base in the GPT, which you can ask questions about. I'm dealing with this property that has this wetlands issue. How do I respond to that? Or, there's this person who wants this price, but I can only offer this price. Like, how should I respond to them? And it's going to use this vast pool of information that you uploaded, and it can take that and through that lens, answer the question. So it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Very cool. I'll be looking forward to playing with it more in the future and see what we can do, and then putting my team on it. So I'm not the only one doing it.
For sure.
We've been using it mostly for copywriting for the most part up to this point, but I know there's so much more we could do.
For sure.
Now, Seth, just as we wrap up this conversation today, we could keep going on and on talking about all this kind of thing. I would just love to hear from you any thoughts that you want to share that maybe regarding leadership in land, that as we've been talking, maybe something's come up for you just to think about, this is really something that I think applies to leaders in land that we should be talking about.
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe, it's actually interesting because in a lot of ways, I think I'm kind of weak on the leadership front. I don't think it's like what I was born to do necessarily. I can do it, but it's kind of a struggle in some ways because I'm not this huge visionary. I'm actually a better follower, to be honest with you. Like, I'm better at tell me what to do, and I'm going to put my head down and plug away and do a really good job at that. But to think of the ideas is something I sometimes struggle with. And the interesting thing about that is I've talked to a number of land investors over the past 6 months who are, it's like a team, like 2 land investors working together where they're partners in the business. And they're doing really well. And whenever I talk to people like that who are partnering together, I always ask them, like, what if this other person disappeared tomorrow? Like, what would you do? Or like, what if you had never met them? Would you be where you are today? And the answer is always no. Mm-hmm. And what that tells me is like, okay, so what if I need a partner and I'm just not doing that? Or I have this limiting belief that there are no good partners. Like, the only ship that sinks is a partnership. So I shouldn't do that. And I can tell you, like, having worked seriously with the first successful partnership I had in my storage facility, and now that I know how good it can be, like, I don't want to do another one without him. Like, he's that good. And it makes the difference between like something succeeding and failing in many cases. Or even if you would have done it anyway, you would do it way, way subpar to what you could have done if you had a good partner. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're somebody who is just like fundamentally against the idea of partnerships, like, you're limiting yourself unnecessarily. Like, don't just say no to something because maybe you had a bad experience or you heard somebody tell some horror story. Like, partners can play a huge role, especially if you're somebody like me who maybe you're not the best leader, but your partner is, and they can do a good job at that, and you can do a good job at what you do. But you guys are strong in different parts of the leadership, right? You might be strong in a particular area. That person might be strong in a particular area, like the visionary versus the integrator. You're probably more an integrator kind of a person rather than a visionary kind of a person. Yeah. So and it's not that you can't be a visionary, but that it naturally doesn't come to you as easily. Yeah. Yeah. And this idea of like, just find a good partner. I feel like that's oversimplified advice. Like, just send more mail, that kind of thing. Or like, just outsource it. Okay, how do I do that? And I think that there is a little bit of luck involved, but it's also one of those things where it's like, you're probably encountering a lot of great partners on a daily or weekly basis, but you're not looking at them through that lens. Like, what if I partnered with them? Whereas if you are looking at it through that lens, you might just see a lot more opportunities than you otherwise would. So I know for a lot of years, like I just didn't want to partner with anybody. So I would never even think about that. But now that I know the power behind partnerships, it's like, there's a lot of good people out there who are way better at stuff than I am. And I'm kind of stunting my growth if I'm just completely unwilling to work with somebody in that capacity. So just kind of as you live life and as you go about the course of your business, like scan the horizon, like keep your radar out so that you're looking for these good opportunities. And when you see somebody who's clearly good at something you're not good at, think about, what could I do to add value to their operation? Maybe we can help each other.
Love it. Love it. And I always suggest to people, hey, take baby steps. Don't go to Vegas and get married. Take a step, see how it goes.
Yeah.
And you never know, right? Where things can lead to, like you said.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Seth. Well, let's wrap this up here. RE Tipster, we know people can find you. Anything else you want to make people aware of or point them to if they want to check you out?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you go to retipster.com or check us out on any social media platform, just search for RE Tipster, not REI Tipster, but RE Tipster. That's where you'll find us.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, sir. Just such a great quality person. Just appreciate you sharing time with us here and looking forward to do more UnConference stuff together in the future.
Yeah, man. Me too. Thanks for having me. Great to talk to you and talk soon.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's episode. If this was helpful, don't just let it live in your head. Take one idea from today and actually put it in practice. That, my friends, is where the real progress happens. If you want to check out and keep the conversation going with other land investors like you want to make sure to check out a whole bunch of free resources and talk about challenges that we all go through. Please come and check out our leadership and land community on Skool. We've got bonus content, real discussions, and a free leadership course. No hype required at all. Just check out leadershipinland.com or go to Skool, that's SKOOL.com/leadershipinland. Appreciate you being here. Talk soon.